Let's see, this video is going to be different. As you can see from the title, I have received a seized product that you are already aware of. But I was very excited to receive this Poco X7 ahead of time. I'm recording this video on January 2nd, and this phone is being presented on January 9th, so I'm testing it a week in advance. And hey, I'm going to take this opportunity to test it with you, open it with you, and let you see completely what this Poco X7 is like. Without further delay, let's do a little unboxing. We're going to open the plastic and see what's inside the box. This sound, truth be told, is really pleasing. Oof, I get so excited opening new phones. Here's the phone, the Poco X7. The instructions are there, some little thing, but what interests me is the phone. Wow, it's beautiful. Look at the color and metal, it truly looks amazing. Super cool design, with the little screen a bit rounded at the edges. Well, I don't know if it focuses because the camera always catches me, but very cool. What comes in the box? Mainly a case, along with instructions for the first use. But we get a black case, which honestly is going to contrast well with the phone. Let's try it and see how it fits. Wow, it fits perfectly. Can you see it? It's not really black, it's a very dark gray, but it fits him super well. Here is the back protection already. And you should know that this little one already comes with a protector on the main screen that you can hardly see, but it comes with a pre-installed protector. More little things that come in the box. Well, it comes with a USB-A adapter. Oh, how strange. This comes with a 45-watt USB-A for fast charging, which is super good, and a USB-A to USB-C cable for charging. They both match. The cable is white instead of black to match the phone and the charger. Well, that 45 watts. And while I'm doing the first boot, I'll tell you some features. We have the MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Ultra, a 120Hz screen, 1500 crystal res, active matrix of organic light-emitting diodes curved display, active matrix of organic light-emitting diodes. In brief, this device's screen is excellent. 50 megapixels of renewed internet protocol address, camera, 68 dust and water protection, and 5110 milliamp hours of battery. A giant battery for this mobile, so it lasts us a long time. However, as I'm telling you, it's not heavy at all. I'm surprised that it's super light and very comfortable to the hand. Come on, while it's getting set up, I'll tell you a little more. We're going to have a HyperOS operating system, an operating system that we'll test later to see how it works. And we have the model in gray, with a storage of 512 gigabytes. Here you will have room for photos and videos to bore, and also 12 gigabytes of RAM, random access memory. Which I don't expect to be little at all, and I hope it can withstand all the tough tests we're going to put it through. Well, once the unboxing is done, we're going to put the Poco X7 to the test under real conditions. And for that, we've gone out into the street. Let's start talking about its design. The design is made of plastic, but the sensations being in this very light gray, it's like it was aluminum or metal. The phone is light and pleasant to hold, with a curved design that provides a good grip, as I mentioned before. It weighs around 6.7 ounces, and for its size, the weight to size ratio is excellent. So you can see the phone's design more closely. At the bottom, we would have a speaker, a 45-watt USB-C charging port, a slot for a single subscriber identity module card, and then, additionally, we can set up an e-subscriber identity module. On the right side, we have the power button, volume buttons, left side is completely smooth. On the top, a speaker for stereo, microphones for noise cancellation, and an infrared sensor to set up the television, air conditioners, and so on. Finally, on the back, we have a subtle engraving, very cool. It's completely smooth, it has no relief, and it has, well, a certain texture on the inside, which gives it a cool effect when we expose it to light. Finally, cameras. We have, well, a flash, we have a main camera, a wide-angle camera, and also a Mac camera. Lastly, it should be noted that the phone has IP68 water and dust resistance. Next section, screen. As for the screen, we have a screen with a size similar to that of previous generations. In this case, it hasn't changed much, but we also don't have the exact data currently. However, what I can tell you is that they have introduced a curved screen to make it grip much better. And that the feeling, well, that in the end to the hand is better than that of a square phone. On the other hand, we have a screen with 120 Hz, which means that the refresh rate is quite high. So that when we are, for example, scrolling on Instagram, Twitter or Google Chrome, we see a lot of fluidity in the phone. In terms of resolution, we have 1500 and a worse technology. After all, what interests us all? The screen looks excellent, with incredibly realistic and vibrant colors. High dynamic range allows us to watch impressive videos, nature, Instagram Reels, and all the content created today in high dynamic range, to have a greater contrast between the highlights and the shadows. A screen, as I tell you, that looks very good, and I'm going to show you the brightness. As you can see, we are outdoors and the screen brightness is more than enough. In fact, it's on automatic, it hasn't reached the top yet, but well, it's trying. And the truth is that today, which is a cloudy day, is not a summer day, but we have a correct brightness. The fluidity and 120 Hz refresh rate is noticeable, especially when scrolling in the operating system or apps like TikTok. It looks pretty good. Let's talk about the battery. Poco has told us that we have improvements in this mobile, especially in performance, autonomy and charging. Well, let's talk about autonomy. This Poco X7 has 5000 mAh compared to the 6000 of the Poco X7 Pro. Then a charge on this phone of 45 watts compared to the 90 of the X7 Pro. And that's going to give us a general autonomy of more than a day. Around a day and a half with intense use, in screen hours, more or less. Based on my rough calculations, as the phone doesn't clearly state it, my screen time is around 8 hours, using the rule of 3. But anyway, take away the part that with intense use, you're going to make it to the end of the day with plenty to spare. Therefore, with that fast 45 watt charge during the night or at any time of the day, you could charge to have more battery for another day. So it's not an aspect to worry about, we're going to have plenty of battery. We ran a Geekbench 6 and it gave a single core score of 1019 points compared to 2806 in multi-core. Anyway, if you want to compare with other phones, well, you can take these results from other tests that have been done on other phones and thus compare in a slightly more artificial way. What is the performance of the phone? Let's move on to talk about performance. We have a MediaTek processor, the 7300 Ultra MediaTek, a processor that, from what we have been testing, works well. Let's clarify this a little more. We have, as I told you, a screen, 120 Hz. So, when we navigate in day-to-day applications, web browsing, social networks, WhatsApp, all these types of applications that we use on a daily basis, it moves at 120 Hz without any kind of problem. Then, basic games, for example, Clash Royale, Real Clash, it moves very well. We see it very well with that organic light emitting diode screen. Organic light emitting diode. In short, very fluid. However, there are other games, such as PUBG, that require a little more processing. In addition, I have downloaded the high-definition package, in which I am no longer sure if it is not adapted to more than 60 Hz. But we do notice perhaps a little lack of fluidity. It's not that it's going to play badly, it plays well, perfectly, it doesn't jerk. That is, the processor resolves very, very well. But for example, there I think we noticed a little bit of that lack, maybe of a slightly higher range to be playing absolutely any game at 120 Hz. However, the results are very, very good. Now, this processor is accompanied by 12 GB of RAM, random access memory, so to speak, typical of what a device has always carried. And it can be expanded up to 24 in customizable jumps, if I'm not mistaken, of 4 GB with the device's internal storage. That is, we would take from the 512 GB it has for storage for movies and the like, we would take RAM, random access memory, to expand it up to 24 GB. This is going to be the case in case we need to run programs, like for example, well, a video editing for TikTok or these kinds of actions that may require keeping more programs in the background while we are using the mobile. However, the base option of this mobile is to have 8 GB of RAM, random access memory, and 256 of storage. As for the operating system, we have Android 14 as a base. This would be, well, what is going to work underneath the mobile. However, then on top, Little adds a customization layer, a layer called Y. But in the end, it gives us, well, different icons, a bit of a way to move around the main start screen somewhat differently, and then something that doesn't quite catch my attention today in 2025, which is that it adds many default applications, it adds LinkedIn, it adds Facebook, it adds Amazon, it adds, in short, many games. A lot of applications that for me are not necessary and that I would prefer to install myself. Something curious about Poco phones is that they copy quite a bit the way Apple's iPhones work in particular. We would have notifications sliding from the left side and a part of a control center from the right side where we can control the Wi-Fi. Well, here are some shortcuts that I have set up, in which I have, well, airplane mode, battery saving, brightness, volume, music stuff, in short, a lot of controls. Well, that can be done by sliding from the left side or from the top right side. Let's move on to talk about the cameras, and what better example than to record directly with the Poco X7 itself. So, better than you, they don't judge anyone, and you will see directly the quality it produces. Well, here, from an area that is more in the shade. And now we are going to move to a more illuminated area, so you can see how it handles the change in lighting. At the same time we are moving, so you can also take into account the stabilization, and I'm going to tell you a little about the features. We have a 50 megapixel main camera from Sony with a Sony sensor that honestly takes very good photos, balanced photos for the price, which I will tell you later how much the phone costs. Generally, it's like the generations we've seen before, it takes very correct photos. Also, the video you are watching is in 4000 at 30 frames per second, a super balanced video as well. Although it is true that it will lose a bit in low light conditions, it will produce somewhat less realistic colors. However, we have an artificial intelligence mode that gives us vivid colors to achieve beautiful images. I was surprised by the camera stabilization. Without it, the video you're watching would have much more movement. It performs exceptionally well, competing with high-end products in this aspect. Then, regarding the wide-angle camera, we have something different from what I was telling you. Well, we have a camera that will allow us to take a much wider image. But on the other hand, we are going to have only video in 1080, and well, you are already seeing that the quality drops a bit. But hey, if you want to get those shots with a bit more of an angle, something more stabilized still, because with the wide angle the images are much more stabilized, well, this would be the result. Let's discuss the 20 megapixel front camera shown on the screen now. How does it capture photos? Just one note. Photos are usually taken in 12 megapixels. However, to activate those 50 megapixels that I told you the sensor has, we must go to the right of the screen and activate a special mode. This is done so that normal photos do not take up much space and, however, we mark those that we want to take, especially with a higher resolution. In summary, Poco, as always, making super balanced phones, well priced, and that, after all, a person rarely needs more than a phone like this Poco X7. What do you want a little more? Well, you would have the Poco X7 Pro to improve some aspects such as charging, battery, a little more performance, but those are minimal differences. In short, I think this Poco X7 is going to be a very good, if not the best alternative in the mid-range for this year 2025. Now I want to know your opinion also below in the comments about this device, and we still need to finish talking about the price. This Poco X7 is officially going to start at 299 euros, while its competitor, the X7 Pro, is going to start at 329 euros. A fairly low difference if you want to go a little step up. With that said, I hope you liked the video. If so, leave a like and see you in the next one. Goodbye.